Hey everyone. We had a little bit of a delay because my camera would not come on, but welcome, and I'm going to get everything squared away here in just a second and we will get our live started. Sometimes this happens with whether you're on Zoom or Facebook Live, things just don't always go perfectly, and you just have to take a deep breath and it'll work out. So, um, I'm really glad you're here, and I'm going to get all my settings so that I can see what's going on. All right, so we are here today to talk about templates, and we're going to start in about a minute or so officially. So in the meantime, let me just chat with you a little bit. I'm Diane Harris. I'm here for Annie's and Quilter's World. I do a little freelancing for them remotely. So I'm coming to you from South Central rural Nebraska, and Annie's is based in Indiana, so a couple of states away. We take a little bit of time here at the beginning so that my team members can share the links out to some of their other social media channels, so as many people as possible get to see the live. So wherever you're here from today, go ahead and drop it into the chat and say hello. If we've met somewhere in one of my Quilt Guild programs or a class, I would love to hear about that. Where did we meet? Where did our paths cross? The longer you're in the business, the more people you get to become acquainted with. And it's just a wonderful thing because quilters kind of get each other right off the bat. And I love that so much. Okay, so it's 11:04. I'm going to go ahead and start officially. I think we probably have been going long enough. Okay, welcome to the Stash Bandit studio. I'm Diane Harris. I'm coming to you from Nebraska, very rural part of Nebraska, on behalf of Annie's and Quilter's World. I'm so glad that you joined me today, and we're going to talk about taking the terror out of templates. Templates have kind of a bad reputation, but they really don't have to be difficult. And I'm going to show you how you can make and use templates in a way that will make it a little less painful for you. So the quilt that prompted this live, whoops, I have to always adjust a little more than I think for the camera, is this beautiful quilt from the summer issue of Quilter's World. It's called Kaleidoscope Churn. And as you can see, it has some funky shaped patches that aren't the normal shapes that we would cut with a rotary cutter. So they're a little beyond squares and right triangles or rectangles. So they're a little bit different. And so in the pattern, you are given a template. And sometimes people see the word template and they just bail on the whole pattern. But let me show you why it doesn't have to be so bad. A couple of things before we get to the template. So one thing to always think about is I don't like to tear my magazine up if I have a hard copy of the magazine. So I'll often make a copy of the template that's printed in the publication, right? So another thing that happens is, like this time, I didn't have a hard copy of the magazine. I only had an electronic copy. I had a PDF. So what I did was you can print one or however many pages of the PDF you want for personal use. So I printed this page. It's on page 40 of that summer issue. And this is the template that we'll be using. I'm going to get it a little bit closer so that you can see. So, and the thing is, when you print from a PDF, it's really important that you pay attention to the settings of the print dialog box, because you need to print the template at 100%. Or sometimes the print dialog box will say something like no page scaling. You do not want to have the box checked that says fit to the page. It usually just says fit to page. You do not want it to fit it to the page, because if this were to be fit onto the page, it would make it huge, so it took up the whole page, or it might make it smaller so that it would fit on the page. So you want it to print at exactly the size it was intended to print, which is 100% or no page scaling. So you have to really pay attention to that before you click the final print message. So when I do that, I mark on here that this was from the PDF. So you can see right there, I marked PDF, because sometimes you need more than one copy. And so I went and I made photocopies of what I printed from the PDF. And on those, I marked photocopy. So when you make copies, you want to only make a copy of your original that you printed, that you have determined is the right size. And you don't want to make photocopy of a photocopy, because just incrementally it can get to be off. There are a couple of ways you can check to make sure that you have printed at the correct size. In this pattern, it says that these patches can be cut from 5.5-inch strips. So you know that when you print this, it needs to be exactly 5.5 inches from down here at the bottom to this flat line up here at the top. It has to be exactly 5.5 inches. If it's not, then you know you didn't print it at exactly the right scale. Sometimes a pattern that you're going to print will have a little, it'll be like a test line or a test box, and it will say this box should be 1 inch. And so that is just a foolproof method for testing whether you've printed at the right size. If that box, if it says 1 inch and it measures 1 inch, then you've done it correctly. But if it says 1 inch and it measures 7/8 or 3/4 or something, then you haven't. So those are two different ways to make sure that you've printed at the right size. So a lot of times, you know, we have this idea that when it says make a template, we have to take this pattern and take our template plastic and put it over. Can you see that that's, I guess you can hear it maybe. Put it over, trace around there, cut it out. But that is really, it's kind of a pain and it's not very accurate. Believe me, there's a simpler way. So let me show you what that is. So this is when I made a photocopy from my original. So there you can see is my template. And what I like to do is take that photocopy and I turn it over, and if I lay it on top of a plain white sheet of paper, I can see the black cutting lines of the template. Now I realize that you probably can't see it so well here today, but trust me when I say that when you flip this over, so this is my template print photocopy. When I lay this on top of a plain white sheet of paper, I can see where those black lines are, yes, where those black cutting lines are. So what I do then is I take some double-sided sticky tape. So it's just, it says permanent double-sided tape. You get it with the office supplies, any place they sell Scotch tape. So I'm going to use that and I'm going to put it over that black cutting line all the way around. So I don't know if you can really see that. Yeah, maybe you can kind of get an idea. So I've covered those black lines and then I put another strip right down the middle. So what I'm going to do then, here is my template plastic, and you can get this at your local quilt shop or you can order it online. But there are different weights, and I like a heavier weight more than a real lightweight one. So what I'm going to do then is put my template plastic over that taped area. And then I'm going to take this to my cutting surface. And I have a rotary cutter that is marked. Do you see that red X? That means that it's for anything other than fabric. I don't use my nice sharp fabric blade to cut other stuff because it dulls it very quickly. So I have one that's marked just for cutting other stuff. So I'm going to take this rotary cutter and a ruler, and I'm going to cut that template out. So the paper now is adhered tightly to the template plastic, and what I get as a result, let me get to my right sample here, is a beautiful template. So it's the plastic on the back, and it's got the template on the front, and because of the way I placed the tape, it's securely adhered, and that paper's not flopping all over the place, so that double-sided tape did a nice job of attaching that. So if you just wanted to use the template like this, you could. Now we know, one second, we know that this can be cut from 5.5-inch strips, and that's just a good thing to notice, because anytime that you have two straight lines that are parallel to each other, you want to use that to your advantage. And what you would do is cut a strip and then lay this template on the strip, like you can kind of see right here. There's no point in fussing with getting these lines right every time when you can just lay them on the strip and boom, you've already got those two perfectly cut. So you could use this in a couple of ways. You could draw skinny lines with a mechanical pencil and then work your way down the strip, and then use your ruler and rotary cutter to cut your templates. Or here, another thing you could do is to use this along with a rotor or a ruler. And I don't have exactly the right kind of ruler here, but just pretend this is a normal ruler. So I would lay this on my strip, and then I would lay the ruler on top of it, and that would allow me to cut accurately. But my favorite thing to do is even better than that. So here is a small ruler, and you kind of want to use a smallish ruler for this. You don't want a giant 24-inch long ruler because it'll just be awkward. So I've made a paper template, and I used the double-sided tape again, and I adhered the template to the back of the ruler. So now all I have to do is lay this on here and slice, and then I can rotate it and slice again, and I can rotate it and slice again. Now I am left-handed, and when you grow up left-handed, you learn how to do a lot of things with either hand. So I cut with both hands. So I don't really ever have to worry about rotating the fabric, and you will have to make the adjustments for yourself for whichever hand you cut with. But you get the idea. This is just really, really a simple way to make a template so much less painful. You just attach the template to the back of the ruler with double-sided tape, and off you go cutting your patches. So one other thing that you can do is you can get a ruler that's specifically made for the size of patches that you need. And so this is a Kaleido ruler. This is specifically made for the shapes that are in the Kaleidoscope Churn pattern. And the one thing to notice is that the tip here is flat. I think you can see that. There we go. We're going to put a link in the comments to the place in Annie's catalog that has a ruler similar to this. It's called the Spiderweb ruler. And it makes cutting these patches absolutely painless. But if you're like me, I live in the middle of nowhere, so I can't just bop over to the quilt shop in 15 minutes. I'm an hour away from a quilt shop. So it's really good to know how to make your own templates. But if you have time and you want to make the investment, you can get an acrylic ruler. So then what you would do here, you can see it says cut strips 5.5. So that tells me that that's where I would line up this ruler. And you can see that my little flat top here is lined up on the top. So that type of ruler, like we're going to put the link for in the comments, makes it really easy to cut your patches as well. One thing to watch out for when you're getting a ruler. So I went digging in my huge stash of rulers that I've been collecting for, 35 years. And I found this little ruler. This is a very, very old ruler. I doubt that it's even on the market anymore. But even though the angle is exactly the same, it's actually a 45-degree angle. Do you see here how the tip is pointed? And so if you were to line up the 5.5-inch line on this ruler, because they haven't taken off that tip, you're going to get patches that are not the size they need to be. So let me show you. So here are some patches that I cut using my template. And they also fit perfectly on the ruler. So there you get an idea of the size of those. Okay, and then I cut some little patches using the pointy ruler, which is what you do not want. And I'm just going to lay this on top of here so that you can see. Do you see how far off that is? Let me move this one so that you can see a little better. So that is not anywhere near the size that it needs to be. So when you get a ruler, make sure that the tip is blunt, like you see here. You have to have a blunt tip so that I would take my magazine with me when I went shopping for the ruler to make sure that it was exactly the right thing. So my best recommendation is this little guy. Make your paper template, adhere it to the back of a smallish ruler, and use that to cut your patches. So I want to show you one more time. This is Kaleidoscope Churn, which is really a beautiful quilt design in the summer issue of Quilter's World. And now that you know that templates aren't really as terrifying as you thought, maybe you can give it a shot. So I hope that's been helpful for you. Be sure to like the Annie's or Quilter's World Facebook page wherever you're watching. I would invite you to my website, which is stashbandit.net. My name is Diane Harris. I do quilt programs for guilds all across North America. I would love to visit your quilt guild and talk about scrap quilts because scrap quilts are my jam. This would be a super fun design to do scrappy. I might have to mock that up. That would be really fun to do. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope our paths will cross again somewhere down the quilting road. Take good care, friends. Bye-bye.